You fire up a remastered classic, expecting polish, nostalgia, and maybe even some modern level quality of life tweaks. Instead, you get bugs, broken mechanics, or visuals that feel off. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on 10 remasters that didn't just underdeliver, they actively made beloved originals worse. These aren't minor missteps, they're painful lessons in how nostalgia can be overwritten, sometimes literally. Warcraft III was a foundational RTS, emotive storytelling, iconic art, and a thriving custom content ecosystem that birthed games like Dota. The remaster promised remade cinematics, 4K graphics, and UI improvements, but those cinematic trailers turned out to be vaporware. The UI looked bloated, and Blizzard stripped away beloved features like clans, ladders, and even access to the original game. It was worse than a visual misfire. It was a betrayal of functionality and community trust. Fans were furious at being forced into a downgraded replacement of something they already loved. The original GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas were gritty, stylistic masterpieces powered by PS2 era tech. The remasters, a bizarre mobile port mishmash full of texture glitches, warped lighting, erratic NPC behaviour, and mood entirely washed away. Even critics who appreciated the nostalgia acknowledged that the art direction and atmosphere didn't survive the trip to modern hardware. In essence, the remasters felt like cheap, candy-coated versions of the originals, missing their soul. Silent Hill thrives on fog, oppressive sound design, and disjointed movement to evoke dread. The HD collection, however, stripped away nearly all of the fog, replaced the haunting voice acting with flat new voices, and haphazardly patched from beta code. Result? A brighter, cleaner visual, but moodless horror devoid of its signature dread, turning a slow burn masterpiece into a stale, unintentional joke. I mean, come on, we all remember the comic Sans sign. Can It Run Crisis became a PC meme because the originals pushed hardware to the absolute brink. The remasters booted you onto console quality ports, gutted mod support, and lacked the day one strap-on optimizations. Graphically enhanced? Well, yes, but the soul, flexibility, and performance of the original PC versions evaporated. It felt like a hollow reflection of its former glory. Here was a hopeful collection. Classic Sonic games, upgraded for modern platforms. In reality, several elements broke. Tales got stuck. Music tracks were remixed poorly. Some levels felt foreign despite being familiar. Sonic 3's soundtrack changes in particular pissed fans off. The iconic music simply felt wrong. Pricing, missing older versions, and lack of modern save states made it feel like a nostalgic bait and switch just for money. Needless to say, Sonic fans on the whole weren't happy. The original Tales of Symphonia stood as a top-tier combat RPG, revered for its story, pacing, and combat. The remaster added nothing but inconsistent frame rate, long load times, and lackluster performance. It even excluded the sequel, Dawn of the New World, which most releases up until that point had included. Fans were baffled. Why release a half-baked version at full price when better versions already existed on Steam? The 1997 Blade Runner PC game is a cult classic, atmospheric and mysterious. The Enhanced Edition aimed to modernise it, but failed in its graphics, often looking worse than the original or ScumVM ports. It landed among the worst rated games of 2022 on Metacritic. and Night Dive Studios even had to bundle in the older version post-launch just to fix the disaster. The original 13 game from 2003 was a stylish, cel-shaded shooter with a unique comic book aesthetic. The remake dumped its charm for a watered-down graphical style, butchered weapon limits, and launched overwhelmed by technical bugs and a broken audio. The backlash was so extreme it drove a sales spike for the original, which fans nostalgically returned to. And the remake's developer publicly apologised for it. Oblivion is one of Bethesda's most beloved RPGs. Heck, it's a favourite of mine. But the remaster had big ambitions on Unreal Engine 5 with ray tracing, but instead delivered one of the worst performing PC games according to Digital Foundry. Players experienced stutters, inconsistent frame pacing, memory leaks, and degradation over long sessions. It looked shinier, sure, but you'd better have a very modern machine, or risk unbearable performance. And you'd think that by now Bethesda would have got the whole memory leak issue sorted out. Stylish visuals and faithful remake spirit aside, the Insane trilogy widely failed to replicate the analog feel of the original's jump mechanics. Crash's jumps were mapped with a subtle digital to analog hack in 1996 that let players control jump height by holding the button ever so slightly, something Naughty Dog intentionally reversed in the remake for a fixed jump height. The result? Floaty, imprecise controls that robbed the game of finesse. As one of the creators noted, the most important 30 milliseconds were lost. When we look across all of these failed remasters, a few common threads start to emerge. It's not just that these games were technically worse, or buggy, or handled carelessly, it's that they broke a very delicate relationship between players and the games that shaped them. For a lot of us, these classics aren't just games, they're personal landmarks. Warcraft 3 wasn't just an RTS, it was the game that maybe got you into competitive multiplayer or modding for the very first time. Silent Hill wasn't just about foggy streets, it was more about the memory of playing it late at night with the speakers turned down and your heart pounding, wondering if the shadows in your room were moving. Grand Theft Auto Vice City wasn't just a sandbox, it was your soundtrack of adolescence, neon lights and cheesy 80s synths blasting through your TV speakers. So when a remaster comes along, it's not just a product update, it's a promise that these memories can be relived on modern hardware, in higher fidelity, with smoother performance. And when that promise is broken, when the remaster feels sloppy, cynical, or worse than what we already had, it feels like someone took those memories and repackaged them without care. That's why the anger isn't just disappointment, it's personal. Another common theme is atmosphere getting lost in the translation. Think about Silent Hill HD removing the fog, or GTA Definitive Edition scrubbing its moody lighting. Atmosphere is fragile. It's not just the assets, but it's how they all come together. Change one variable, brighten a scene too much, alter how shadows fall, remix music that had a unique mood, and suddenly the emotional core feels off. Even if everything looks sharper, the experience feels hollow. Then there's the mechanical fidelity problem. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is a perfect example. The remake nailed the look, but tweaked the jump timing ever so slightly. To a casual fan, that seems minor, but for players who mastered the original, who spent hundreds of hours perfecting runs, that tiny difference was the soul of the game. A remaster doesn't just need to look like the original, it needs to play like it. Or the muscle memory built up over decades just gets shattered. We also see feature stripping as a recurring frustration. Warcraft III Reforged didn't just look different, it actively removed features players loved. Same with Sonic Origins, cutting options and older versions. Fans hate this because it's not just a downgrade, it's erasure. You're no longer given a choice between the classic and the remaster. you're forced into the new and worse version. That hits harder than just a bad port. There's also an economic dimension here. Most of these remasters weren't free updates, they were sold as full-priced games, sometimes more expensive than the originals. Fans expect polish, respect, and maybe even bonus content when they're asked to pay again for something they already own. Instead, they often get a product that feels rushed, outsourced, or lacking care. The disappointment is magnified by the financial sting of it all. And finally, there's the myth of preservation. A lot of players see remasters as digital preservation of classics, a way to ensure that future generations can play these games without hunting down retro hardware. But when the remaster is worse and sometimes replaces the original, it actually harms preservation. Imagine future players booting up Silent Hill HD and thinking, this is what everyone loved? When in fact, they're seeing a broken imitation. That's devastating, because it warps cultural memory itself. So when you put all these threads together, it's no wonder fans react so strongly. Bad remasters aren't just a bad purchase, they're a betrayal of trust, a distortion of nostalgia, and sometimes even an erasure of the thing that we loved in the first place. That's why the backlash can feel so overwhelming, even disproportionate at times, because at the heart of it, games aren't just software, they're memories, and nobody likes seeing their memories mishandled. Remasters are supposed to honour the past. They're digital time machines, promising to bring nostalgia into sharper, smoother focus. But the ones we've unpacked today, well, they didn't just fail to polish, they dulled, broke, or reshaped the games in ways that undermine the magic of games itself. When the mechanics, visuals, or atmosphere we hold dear get altered, or worse, replaced, it doesn't just disappoint us, it feels like an edition of ourselves has been lost. That's why these remasters stung so deeply. So, next time you see Remastered on a classic you love, ask yourself, will this version recreate the magic, or rewrite it in the worst ways possible?